Hello and welcome guys. Now if you're watching this video, then knowingly or unknowingly you have stepped on to a whole new branch of physics, which we call the thermodynamics. Now while thermodynamics was always around, it really caught up its pace when the steam engine was developed. Scientists and engineers all around the world were solving difficult problems to increase the efficiency of steam engine. But much to their own surprise, thermodynamics went on to become one of the most influential branches of physics, even answering big questions about life, universe and everything. Now great physicists like Thomson, Celsius, Fahrenheit, Maxwell, Joule, Gibbs and so many others gave thermodynamics the current shape in which it exists today. But the whole idea of this subject starts with a very simple concept of heat, which is what we are going to discuss today. So let's begin with a simple question. What is heat? Now there are many ways to answer this, but let me go with the simplest one. Do you remember the chapters of electricity and light that we learned in the previous standard? Well, what is the one thing you think is common between those two? Well, both electricity and light are different forms of energy which can travel from one place to the other. For example, an electric current flows through a conductor from one location to the other, whereas a light ray can travel through a medium or even through vacuum from one point to the other. Just like that, heat is also a form of energy which can flow from one object to the other. For example, on a cold winter night, if I switch on the heater, then heat from the coil reaches all the way to me and gives me a feeling of warmth. On the other hand, if I place an ice cube on my hand, then heat from my hand flows into the ice cube, melting the ice cube and giving me a feeling of cold. So I'm sure it's clear that heat is just another form of energy which can travel from one object to the other. Now, although I used words like hot and cold while explaining, and they make sense in common usage, they don't make any sense in physics at all. Why? Well, because the idea of something being hot or cold is only subjective. And just by touching, we cannot be sure that our judgment is right. Let me experimentally demonstrate it to you how unreliable our sense of touch is when it comes to determining how hot or how cold an object is. I like to affectionately call this experiment Fool My Hands experiment. So here we have three containers lined up in a row. The first one has warm water, the second has normal water at room temperature, and the third one has freezing cold water present in it. Now you need to put your right hand into the hot water and left into the cold water for a couple of minutes. After that, pull your hands out of the hot and cold containers and put them together into the middle container. What do you feel? Is this water hot or cold? Well, the reason such a conflict happens is because when you put your right hand in warm water, it gets a little warm too. And when you place it in normal water, the heat flows away from it, giving you a cold feeling. The exact opposite happens with the left hand, where you get a warm feeling. So there you go, your hands are fooled nice and good. But how do we solve this dilemma? What should we do? Well, the first thing we need to do is objectively and scientifically define hot and cold, which right now is very subjective. And second, we need to figure out a way to measure it. So let's tackle each of them one by one. So, to describe how hot or how cold an object is, scientists define an entirely new physical quantity called temperature. So, in short, temperature expresses the degree of hotness or coldness of any object. Now, just like other physical quantities like distance, speed and time, temperature also has its own unit. Yes, the SI unit of temperature is Kelvin, which is represented by a capital K. But the other, much more widely used units are degree Celsius and degree Fahrenheit. Now, Fahrenheit is the official scale of the United States and a few other countries, but the rest of the world, including India, uses Celsius as their official scale. Now, for your information, the average human body temperature is about 37 degrees Celsius, whereas the average dog's body temperature is about 39.1 degrees Celsius. Water freezes into ice at 0 degrees Celsius, whereas the water boils into steam at 100 degrees Celsius. Now all these values, if I express in Fahrenheit, will be something like these. But like I said, in India, we'll mostly concern ourselves with the Celsius values only. Great. So we got our first question answered. Now, let's talk about the device which can help us measure this temperature. So you have any guesses? Yes, it's the thermometer that helps us measure the temperature. So a thermometer is made up of simple components. At the bottom, you have a metal bulb that contains a temperature sensitive liquid like mercury or colored alcohol. A thermometer works on the principle of thermal expansion, which says that when any object is heated, it expands in volume. So when the metal bulb comes in contact with a hot body, the temperature sensitive liquid also heats up and therefore expands in a tube. This tube is also called the capillary tube. Now as you can see, the capillary tube is attached to a measuring scale which can display temperatures in either degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit. So all in all, a thermometer is made up of a metal bulb that contains a temperature sensitive liquid, a capillary tube and a measuring scale. Now thermometers can be of different types based on wherever they are used. We'll talk about the type of thermometers in the next video. For now, let's summarize what we learned. Heat is a form of energy which can flow from one object to the other. Temperature expresses the degree of hotness or coldness of any object. The SI unit of temperature is Kelvin, whereas the other more popular units of temperature are degree Celsius and degree Fahrenheit. Degree Fahrenheit is the official scale of United States and a few other countries, but the rest of the world, including India, uses degree Celsius as their official scale. Thermometer is a device that helps us measure the temperature. There are various kinds of thermometers present depending on where they would be used.